G'day. Today we're doing a transmission service on a BMW, a 320i 2006. Got the 2-litre motor in it, and it's got the 6-speed ZF6HP19 transmission in it. Now, we've got a few fault codes, engine codes with it. Start her up, and we've got noisy idler bearing, probably the tensioner there, and then there's an idler bearing over here. This one, very noisy, and if you, there you go, you can hear that. Turn it off. And then over here on the driver's side, or the right hand side of the motor, we've got these VVT solenoids. Variable valve timing solenoids here, and there's a leak on them, especially on the bottom one. So we've got the stone guard off, and to ID these have the plastic, still have the plastic pan on there. You also can get a metal upgrade pan where you won't have to replace the whole plastic pan every time you change it. On the plastic pan filters, the filter's actually, the filter's actually incorporated in the plastic pan. You need to replace the whole thing. There is an upgrade. You can put a metal pan, and then you're just replacing the gasket and the filter each time. Now to ID the ZF, what's going on here? The light. But we've got 6HP19, and then there's an 010020 code, and that's how you identify the transmission type. And over here we've also got a massive oil leak there on the engine oil level sensor there. So it's either the seal or the housing's leaking on it. If it's on the seal, you can fix it. If it's on the housing, then you've got to replace it. Good idea to just give it a bit of a clean. Any road dirt, loose road dirt, get rid of it before we drop the pan. 10mm Allen key, we'll just drain the oil in it. You won't get all the oil out because there's a little step in the pan there, so be aware of that when you're lowering the rest of it. T40 bolts, and you just wriggle it off. The filter's at the front, pickup neck. Now quite often these valve bodies wear out, but there is what's called a pressure zip kit that you can install on them. These end plugs here, you'll notice some of them are sometimes a bit loose, like this one. You can see that one just easily pushed in and out. And that one there. This one up here as well. These ones aren't too bad, they're pretty tight in there. But what they do, they put a little groove in the end plug, and they put an O-ring in there, and then that'll seal up that pressure leak in that bore. Quite often you'll get an improvement there. Now Steve has already blown out the range sensor. There was like a fair bit of fuzz on there. Good idea to just clean it off. And good idea up here, you've got the case connector sleeve. Just make sure it's not leaking up there. And here we are on the Sonax website, looking up the information. There's a heap of free information on there. And I'll just scroll down. There's a diagram that shows where the valve bodies usually wear out. You get pressure leaks. And here we are. We've got 105, 106 plugs are loose. Bypass clutch control regulator valve, the clutch E latch valve, and over here we've got 102 and 103 lubrication control valve and the converter release regulator valve. So it would definitely improve the transmission if we replace those plugs. And these end plugs there, they're under the solenoids. Where the solenoids are, they quite often wear out as well. On the 6HP transmissions, they have these little accumulator pistons in the valve body, and they've got like a little rubber seal on the bottom of them that sometimes they wear out, or they wear a little step, a little groove in it where the step is, or sometimes even the rubber completely flattens out. So it's a good idea to check that if you've got bumping issues. And of course these little filters that are in the valve body, they need to be clean, not torn. You can find a link in the description that shows how we do that. Here we've got the plastic pan. You can see the magnets are covered in fuzz there, and the filter's actually incorporated or stuck on the actual plastic pan. Sometimes they're bolted, but I've never been able to find a replacement one for the ones that are bolted. Over here you can see that's got 2006, so I doubt this one's ever been replaced. And we've got the new filter and pan there. Always a good idea to have a check in there, make sure there's no little shards or flakes of plastic. Make sure the magnets are good, and also make sure that that little rubber seal is intact and pushed all the way in. Sometimes they can get a little bit of plastic under there as well. Make sure the O-ring's on the neck there, a little bit of oil on there, and you want to be pushing it up that end there until you'll feel it click. There we go. And you can see the sequence of tightening there. We tighten them up. We've got a plastic one, 10 Newton meter. Now we've got the filler over here at the rear on the left side of the transmission, or the passenger side, and it's important to get it to between 30 and 50 degrees with the motor running. And it should be just trickling out of there. If you go over 50 degrees, you've got to let it cool down. Ideally we like to get them at about 40 degrees, that's sort of a mid-range. And the reason being is that the oil expands with heat, so you've got to make sure you don't get it, measure it too hot, or it will keep going up, or too low. You can use the Lifeguard 6 or equivalent, where you're using the Tritec multi, or you can also use, I think, the Penrite BMW oil. Now you can see it's coming out there, so now we want to just start it for a moment. That'll pump any oil up into where it should be, and then we'll top it up again, and then you can keep the motor running and just top it up a bit. You don't want to starve the pump of oil, or you can do damage to the pump. Turn it off, and that's sucked that oil up, and now we just top it up again till it's trickling out, and you keep the motor running. You can top it up. You've got to bear in mind that it's probably, I don't know, way under 30 degrees, so if the oil level's just a little bit below, you're going to get a lot more oil coming out until it gets to the 30 or 40 degrees like we mentioned. We'll just put another 1.5 litres in, start her up. You can keep it running now. And we'll just top it up now. I've just got to put the camera down till it's just trickling out. And another 1.5 litres went in before it started coming out. You see the oil's pretty dirty still in there. It's a little bit brighter, but it's still pretty dark. So transmission temperature, we're on 33 degrees. Just go through the gears. Sometimes if you put it in drive for a moment, it'll warm up a lot quicker. And we'll try and get it close to 40 degrees before we check the fluid level. So we're on 39 degrees, and if you're testing it at the lower end of the scale, closer to the 30 degrees, when it gets to operating temperature, the transmission fluid level will be up at the upper mark. So if you're towing or doing heavy work, you want to always sort of have it closer to the 50 degrees when you test the fluid level, because the oil expands. You don't want the oil expanding and hitting the spinning parts in the transmission and then getting aerated. So we're on 39 degrees, and I can probably just about go and check that. And you just want it to be just trickling out, or a thin stream like that. There you go, you can see it's starting to create droplets, so we're nearly there. You've got to sort of overfill it a little bit to get the fluid level right. And that's a very thin stream there, so we'll put it to that. I have to do left-handed. You can turn it off. Now another issue I've had people mention to me after they do a service on one of these, that they have trouble selecting park, or the indicator on the dash is out. Now what I believe happens, because this plug's so close to this selector cable, some people may accidentally bend or move the bracket mount on that cable, and it throws the adjustment out a little bit. So just when you're doing it, keep that in mind. You don't want to sort of bend it out of where it is, or just be very careful not to move the cable when you're loosening it. A little bit easier to do on the hoist than it is on the ground. And we've got transmission on 39 degrees. Retighten all the plugs, make sure you wipe off any excess oil just so it doesn't trick you that it's leaking. And good idea to double check your work, especially when it's work like this that you may not be familiar with. Got to put the stone guard back on and the job's done. Anyway, I hope that helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Any comments or suggestions in the section below, and throw us a beer if any of this information helps. The link's in the description. Thank you for watching.